Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasure, powered by JDog and Vet TV. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, and family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and a tactical treasure from their past that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am so excited to welcome Jason Van Camp to the podcast. Jason is an Army veteran, decorated Green Beret, a Wall Street Journal, Amazon, and USA Today best-selling author, Forbes Business Council member, entrepreneur, and a dedicated advocate for his fellow veterans. Jason is the founder and executive director of Warrior Rising, a nonprofit that aims to turn veterans into vetrepreneurs, as well as the founder of and chairman at Mission 60, a leadership consulting firm that empowers and inspires individuals to be the best versions of themselves. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us today. So great to have you.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting to be here. Looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, it's great. So, wow, what an amazing bio. So, your military career. So, what inspired you to join the Army?
I grew up in Washington, D.C. on the Virginia side there. And you just sort of see a lot of military people in that area. And when you grow up, you think to yourself, what am I going to do with myself? What am I going to be? My dad he was in the Army during the Vietnam era, and then he worked as a government employee at the Pentagon at the AMC building, Army Material Commands building, for a long time. And I never thought I'd follow in his footsteps, but I thought that I might join the military. I was raised in a very patriotic household in a very patriotic community. And I thought to myself, maybe that's on the docket. I played G.I. Joe in the woods when I was a kid, and did all that. But I never was like, oh, I'm 100%. I'm going to be an Army officer. As soon as I graduate from high school, I'm joining the military. I was never like that. I always had an open mind because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I feel like a lot of folks that don't know what they want to do end up in the Army.
Right. True. Is there a specific aspect or moment from your service that was pretty significant for you?
A moment from my service that was pretty significant to me. Yeah,
I'm sure you have a
question,
lot,
Tracy.
right?
There's
Maybe.
There's a lot of significant moments for me. Let's recap it. So, combat. I deployed with 101st Airborne Division in the initial invasion in Iraq. That was my first time going to combat. It was for most people in my era. We got into Kuwait and then essentially drove up the entire length of Iraq and ended up in Mosul. And I remember calling my dad just before I left on the airplane to go to Iraq or to Kuwait, and it's kind of like, hey, you got any advice for me? And he's like, yeah, just keep your head down. All right. And then he just kind of hung up. I was like, all right. That was a pretty significant memory for me when my dad said that.
Oh, yeah.
My second deployment was when I was a detachment commander. So I was a Special Forces 18 Alpha, and we were responsible for finding a location, number one, building a team house, number two, finding people to train, third, training them up effectively, and then completely eradicating the area of all enemy forces. At the time, it was in that area, Al-Qaeda. And that was a really rough deployment for us. Half my team got Purple Hearts.
Wow.
My 18 Charlie, my engineer, Rob Pirelli, died on that deployment, on a mission that we went on. And that was a significant life-changing moment for me.
Sure.
The team sergeant was also shot. My interpreter died. My 18 Bravo weapons sergeant was blown up in an ID and ejected, broke his back. Luckily, he's since recovered. My 18 Echo, my camo guy, he got blown up and broke both of his wrists completely, or basically his forearms folded back on him.
Oh, wow.
He was able to recover. And then the team after us that came in got it even worse. They got blown up quite a few times and so forth. My third deployment, that was we were prepping it for that deployment to be the worst of the three. It ended up not being nearly as bad as we anticipated. It was hard to get approval to do a lot of the missions that we wanted to do in that specific area. There were a lot of approvals that needed to take place. Provincial governor, for example. And then when all those people get involved, it makes it hard to execute missions because it seems like the enemy always knew about it beforehand and they left before we got there. But that was a pretty significant deployment for us as well. Training, going to Ranger School, that was a life-changing moment for me, helped me become a better, not only officer and leader, but a man, husband, father. The selection and qualification course for special forces, that was just an amazing time to bond with friends and to, learn your craft and become better at it. So my entire military experience was one instance, one example after another of a significant memory, whether good or bad.
Right. So post-service, you founded Mission 60. Can you talk to me about that? I'm sure that has to do with, your military service and your significant experience.
Oh, absolutely. So when you get promoted to major, they, at the time, I'm sure it's still the same way, but they basically kick you out and they're like, go find something to do for 2 years. Go get a master's degree, go work at an embassy, go teach at West Point or whatever, just get lost. So I went and got my MBA. And as part of the MBA program, they teach you a lot of entrepreneurship. And there are classes and there's competitions where you can start your own business and see how you do against other students in the course and so forth. And I thought to myself, you know what, this could set me up for what I want to do post-military. So what do I want to do? And I thought, I'm knowledgeable about leadership and a West Point guy. I've been in the military doing all this stuff, leading for such a long time. I'm going to assume that I know a lot about that. What am I passionate about? And I said, well, if I really take a deep introspective look at myself, I'm passionate about sports. I watch a lot of sports. I read a lot of sports. I follow sports teams. It's just how I grew up and who I am. I played college football. And I said, what if I could somehow combine those things together? And so I created what we called at the time Mission Essential, having very little business background, basically my first semester in business school. But I knew I had a strong network, robust, group of friends and supporters and so forth from the military. Medal of Honor guys I knew pretty well, and tons of Green Berets that were just, to me, heroes, Navy SEALs and Marines and wounded vets. And I wasn't married, nor did I have kids at the time. But I thought to myself, if I could somehow get all these guys and put them in a room together with my kids and let them soak up everything that they are, through osmosis, that would be something really special. And so I talked to my friends about this. I said, listen, I'm no expert. I'm thinking about doing this. Do you guys want to do it with me? And most of them said, yeah, let's do it. I'm all in. Let me support, And so then I said, well, we need some clients. And like I said, I was looking at this professional sports teams and things like that. So I started cold calling teams. I found a Google list of phone numbers, and I Googled a list of phone numbers for NFL teams, and alphabetically, I wanted one team at a time. I made these calls, and every call I made, I learned something. That's what we call doing market research. I learned who to speak with, the title of that person, what their budget possibly could be, when would be a good time to come in, what they have going on during this time. And, alphabetically, Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, and all the way down to the New York Jets. And the New York Jets, I learned enough to get my foot in the door. And they gave me an opportunity to go up to New York, to Florham Park. It's actually in New Jersey, and pitch to the team. And we went up there and we pitched and we won a contract. So the first time we ever pitched, we won a contract, and our first ever client was the New York Jets.
Wow.
And so we worked with them for the entire season, and we were sort of building our program, our product on the fly, and it was a lot of fun, doing that and working with the Jets and learning and things like that. And, the NFL is a copycat league. So if somebody sees you doing something, one team sees you doing something, then they're going to poach you. They're going to talk to you. And so we've worked with over half the NFL now based on just getting our foot in the door, which was pretty special and significant. And, we've learned a lot over the years. One is I only brought out veterans for the first iteration, and the client would ask questions like, well, how did you do that? What did you do to overcome that? And unfortunately, a lot of the answers that I heard were, I don't know, I just did it. Or, hey, I just relied on my training, or, just sort of BS generic answers like that. And I thought to myself, that's not good. I don't want to be a company that doesn't have all the right answers. And I searched for someone who could help us out with that. And I looked into the scientific community, practitioners, researchers, experts, PhDs, people that seemed like to me were a dime a dozen. A lot of these folks out there pitching their own kind of theories and, with their own expertise and resumes and things like that. And I sat in on a lot of these presentations and a lot of these workshops, and I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of sizzle. They weren't very marketable, but they had a lot of theoretical answers. They could answer the so what and the now what. They could give you a template. They could help you implement an idea to reach a goal. And that's what my guys were lacking. We were lacking the so what and the now what. And so I thought to myself, well, if we could combine those two things together, the science and the boots on the ground, practical veteran experience, we could have something special, and so we did that. And once we did that, we saw a lot more business. And so that was sort of the beginning of Mission Essential, which later became Mission 60. There was another experience, a company in, I believe they're in North Carolina, sent me a cease and desist, and they were called Aegis. And when I looked, I realized they had recently rebranded to Mission Essential. And they stole my logo. And they stole, like, my logo was on there. It was this exact same logo I had. They stole like all this stuff that I had. And I was like, you can't do that. Like, we had already been on ESPN and the NFL Network, Huffington Post, and the New York Times, and all this stuff. And I was furious, and hired a lawyer. And one thing led to another. And after over a year of battling it out in court, my lawyer was like, listen, Jason, they have a lot more money than you. And they're just going to keep spending money until you run out. And so you have to settle. And so we settled with them, and they gave us a buyout, which basically paid for our lawyer fees, which were significant, and changed our name to Mission 60. And that was the genesis of that company.
Wow. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to Tactical Treasures podcast. JDog not only wants to help veterans by putting them into business ownership, but we have our JDog Foundation, which saves lives one veteran at a time. And the way in which we do that is to partner with organizations for PTSD resources, for combating veteran suicide. One of our organizations that we partner with is Stop Soldier Suicide. They are veteran-founded, veteran-led, and veteran-focused. 3 U.S. Army veterans co-founded Stop Soldier Suicide in 2010 amid the worst suicide crisis our military has ever seen. After losing friends and fellow service members to suicide, Army veterans Brian Kinsella, Nick Black, and Craig Gradelli were determined to create a solution for their fellow veterans who were struggling. For them, military suicide isn't just a problem, it's personal. It was clear that something had to be done proactively to get their brothers and sisters in arms the help they needed and reduce the number of service members and veterans lost to suicide. Through their experiences, they realized that the key to preventing suicide is to identify, understand, and address the underlying issues. Things like financial strain, post-traumatic stress, and other mental health issues, and difficulties navigating the transition from military to civilian before they escalate to a point of crisis. The problem is clear. The systems in place just aren't working. Getting help isn't as easy as it should be, and trying to navigate a complicated maze of organizations and resources can be overwhelming when you're in crisis. Stop Soldier Suicide was built to change that. Ladies and gentlemen, veterans, please don't wait until you're in crisis. Reach out for help. StopSoldierSuicide.org or call them at 844-907-1338. Thank you. Now, you're the executive director of Warrior Rising. This kind of helps you empower fellow veterans. So could you talk to me about your program there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking about that. It's something very near and dear to my heart. So we were working with the Oakland Raiders. Now they're in Las Vegas, but they were in Oakland at the time. They hired us, Mission 60, to come out and do a big training exercise with them. And it was a great exercise. We're with some of the coaches and the players, and it was just a lot of fun. And I brought out a lot of veterans to be my instructors, a lot of my buddies, people that had amazing stories, overcoming adversity and resiliency and so forth. And it's cathartic for them to share these stories. It's powerful for the client to hear these stories. And after this big event was over and we were all outside, we were kind of celebrating and wrapping things up and everything. And, I'm an officer by heart. Everything has been like internalized. It's been ingrained in me to make sure my guys are taken care of. And so I just kind of went around to each individual. Hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I could do to help out? Like, what's going on? And I'm a pretty deep guy by nature. So I'd ask kind of probing questions, deeper questions. And I'd sort of hear these same answers. Jason, we get a large disability check from the government. Oh, that's awesome. There's charities that take us hunting and fishing. Oh, that's awesome, man. Glad to hear it. One guy's a triple amputee. He's like, yeah, I just had a nonprofit built a home for me in Montana, handicap accessible. I'm like, oh, love it. Love it. And I wasn't hearing a lot of good feedback after, I made those positive comments, and it seemed something was off. So I'm like, well, everything okay? And the answers I got back were, it's not okay. We joined the military for a reason. We're disciplined, hardworking, we're patriotic, we want to do more with our lives, we want to give back, we want to serve other people. And everybody serves us. And it's a little awkward. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little weird. It's not what I want. We go hunting and fishing. We have a good time. We come back home. Nothing's changed for us. Nothing. Matter of fact, we'd rather be hunting and fishing. It makes life worse. The guy that had the home built for him, he's like, you know what? I was 19 years old when I stepped on an IED in Afghanistan. Came back home. Everybody called me a hero. I don't feel like a hero. I just feel like a guy who's lost 3 limbs. And then they said they were going to build a home for me. I never asked for that. As a matter of fact, I want to build that home for myself. I wanted to earn it on my own, just like I did in the military. That's who I am. That's my personality. Those are my values. That's what means something to me. I don't want someone just to give me something. That's not how it works in this country. You know what I do all day, Jason? I sit outside my house, this house that they gave me, and I smoke weed all day long because I don't want to go inside because I feel terrible when I go inside that house. And I give the guys the same tough love that I always gave them, when they were on teams. What are you going to do about it? And they said, well, Jason, what did you do about it when you got out of the military? How did you overcome all this? How did you figure it out? And I thought about it, and I thought, I started my own business, and it gave me a purpose again. It gave me a chance to work hard and to, add value to a client, to make money for my company, for my family, for the guys on my team. That's my purpose. That's what I did. And the guys were saying the same thing. Like, we want to have that same feeling, that same experience as well. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, we want to build businesses. We want to create something. We want to find our purpose again, just like you did through business ownership. And so I said, well, that's great. But first you have to have an idea. Who has an idea? And they all had ideas. And Tracy, a lot of these ideas were just terrible, terrible ideas,
Oh, dear.
Some of the worst ideas you ever heard, and I gave them tough love again. I'm like, well, I don't know if that idea is going to work. I'm no expert. I did go to business school. I'm just saying, doesn't sound like that's going to be a good, a good um, use of your time. And here's why. And they would thank me for it. They're like, "Oh, thank you. I didn't consider that. I didn't think through that." And some guys had really good ideas, and I was like, "You should do that." And all of a sudden, they started inundating me with questions like, "Well, Jason, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Hey, can you give me some money? I need $50,000 to get this thing up and running. As a matter of fact, why don't you join me? You can be my CFO or my chief operating officer. And you know what? I'm moving to Tampa. You can come with me." I'm like, "Hold on a second. There's too much stuff going on. Let's pump the brakes. I'm not going to do any of that. I got my own stuff going on." And first you have to show me something. What do I have to show you? Show me your business plan and your business model, your SWOT analysis. You got to show me your pro formas. You got to show me, and the guy's like, "What are you talking about? Like, what is that stuff?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, if you don't know what that stuff is, don't start a business, because you're not going to be successful." "Well, how do I find out about it? Do I need to go to business school like you did? I'm like, "Hey, just Google some stuff, like watch some YouTube videos. You'll be fine. Take care of it." And I left the conversation like that. And we celebrated the rest of the night, had a great time. And then I went home. These conversations kept running over and over in my mind. These guys were really asking for help. I'm in a position to help them out. And I didn't. I just gave them tough love and told them to figure it out on their own. That's not who I am. I can do something. But what? And so I thought about that for a long time. And over the course of a few months, I did some research. I looked at what was out there in the nonprofit world for veteran service organizations, helping veterans start businesses. And at the time, I just wasn't impressed. I applied for a couple of them, and what I saw wasn't really helping. And I said, I can do a better job. And so I started Warrior Rising with a guy I met in business school named Joe Hilton, who's a phenomenal business guy, and my friend Ryan Miller from West Point, who was a Ranger and lost his leg in combat, went to Harvard Business School and did a bunch of stuff. Just super impressive guy. And so the three of us created Warrior Rising. And what we did differently was every step of the way, we asked veterans, like, "What do you want here?" And I think that's where most service organizations fail, is they assume they have good intentions. All of them do. Well, most of them do. I think there's 45,000 veteran service organizations out there. And I feel like most of them were created to help veterans. But what they fail at mostly is pretty simple. Ask the veteran, "Do you want this? Is this something you want?" It's almost like Christmas presents, like you never know if it's going to be a good present or not. You never know if this person's going to like it or not, because it's a surprise. You're just guessing at what they might want. Instead of doing that, ask them, "Hey, what do you want? You want this? Let's give it to you." And so that's what we do at Warrior Rising. The process is pretty simple. Everything is free. We don't charge the veteran anything. We have an automated intake process where they learn about business. We try to scare them off, just like a high-level special forces course. It's going to be very, very difficult. Like, if you don't have what it takes, like, it's not going to be successful. You quit now, abandon all hope, ye who enter here, sort of thing. But we're not going to kick you out. You're going to self-select if you do quit, if you do fail, that is. There's a 40 video curriculum that we've created, professionally done. It translates the military decision-making process into a business model. It's a basic course. While you're going through that, we have a monthly coaching call, a Zoom call. We have hundreds of people on this call, and we have a number of breakout rooms with our coaches. And it's basically customer service and Q&A. And whatever you want to ask, come. You're having problems with logging in, or having problems with you don't know what a pro forma is, or what you're going through the course and you don't understand a specific class, we'll answer those questions for you. We also have a monthly mentoring call where we have a keynote presenter at the top of the hour, and we have breakout rooms taught by professors and mentors, PhDs, researchers, experts, and they're giving a class on a very specific theme or topic. And that's more, you just kind of sit there and take notes and listen. And some of them have some Q&A at the end. And if you get through all that, we have an advanced course, a master's course. It's called Vet to CEO. It's a 9-week live interactive course that you go through. And if you get through that, we'll select around 50 veterans to compete to attend a business shower. And similar to a bridal shower or a baby shower, it's an opportunity for us to give the veteran everything they could possibly need to succeed in business. And so if you get accepted, we'll bring you out to a location. And sometimes we have we've done it all over the country. We take care of your travel, your lodging, your food, all that stuff. We give you a free custom business suit, beautiful business suit, laptop, computer, new website, search engine optimization, headshots, professionally done marketing videos for you. And then everybody gets a grant. The winner gets between $20,000 and $100,000, and everybody else gets, based on where you place, sort of an equivalent level of a grant, financial assistance to help you start your business. Most importantly, we introduce you to mentors. So you can have one-on-one mentors, potential clients, and potential investors if you're looking for investors. Our first business shower this year is going to be in Iowa, near Cedar Rapids, March 24th to 25th.
Wow,
our next one is going to be in Washington, D.C., September 20th timeframe. And then our final business shower is going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah on Saturday, November 11th.
Wow.
So
that's great.
A lot of stuff just came out of my mouth. I'm going to breathe for a second and let you talk. And I'm sorry if I'm hogging all the airtime.
Oh, hey, no worries. I wanted to know what was going on. Veterans, military family members, if you're looking for an incredible opportunity, I would encourage you to check out JDogBrands.com. If you're interested in business ownership, if you're missing what was the best thing about your military service, being the camaraderie of fellow veterans, JDog is a place for you. If you go to JDogBrands.com, you can find out everything about JDog, including how to apply for franchise opportunities in either JDog Junk Removal and Hauling or our new division, Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. And if you're looking to just be employed by JDog, we have over 300 locations, close to 115 franchise owners, 90% veteran owned. You can go to the career page and fill out the form and see where we're hiring all across the country. And we connect you with your local JDog in your territory. So check us out, JDogBrands.com. Thanks so much for doing our JCon last year. Your keynote was very, very welcome and awesomely received. Everybody loved it.
Oh, thank you. It was a lot of fun. You got a great group of people. A lot of fun.
Thanks.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you had a little book table there and sold your book, Deliberate Discomfort. I love that title. That's like an amazing title. So what is just a quick little summary about what your book is about?
Thank you. So I wrote an article for Inc. magazine years ago with a guy named Chris Desi, and he's a great guy. And he said, Jason, I need you to write an article and, pick a topic. And I just randomly picked getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I wrote, here are some tips on overcoming, awkwardness or whatever. And it was really well received. I was like, wow, people really like this topic. So I took note. I wrote a few other articles for Inc. magazine with Chris. They're all received well, but the getting comfortable being uncomfortable, that was like 100x for some reason. I'm like, okay, that's the topic people like. And so I thought to myself, I want to take Mission 6-0 and pattern our entire curriculum after getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's what people want. That's something that we're good at. Let's talk about it. And so I said to myself, I want to write this book in a very unique way, in a way that I haven't seen anyone write before. And so it's my story, it's my life, my experience. I just earned my Green Beret, going into my unit for the first time. And in chapter 1, I meet my company commander. And he says, Jason, welcome to the team. We're going to Iraq in a few weeks. You're going to be in charge of the team. We're going into some like legit combat. You're going to be doing all these things in order for you to not only survive, but thrive, to succeed in this company. There are some things I need you to learn. I need you to learn them quickly. The best way I can help you learn this is by talking with the people in the company that I consider the backbone of the company. So meet with these people, take notes, ask them questions, learn about who they are and about, the decisions, why they make the decisions that they do, and then come back and tell me what you learned. And so each chapter is me meeting a different person in the organization and learning about their background, their stories, about how they got comfortable being uncomfortable, about what they did in combat. And then in that same chapter, I have a science section that breaks down the so what and now what into digestible and relatable action items. That's where that science comes from. And then the third section in each chapter is a practical application where I say, this is how we took this lesson in this chapter and applied it to real life, both personally and professionally. And here's an example of a high-end client that you may have heard of, the New York Jets or the Oakland Raiders or the Minnesota Vikings or the Seattle Mariners or something like this. And this is us actually going in there and working with this team. And these are the things that they learned, good and bad, to the reader's benefit, and we published it in February of 2020, and it's been well received. And, I think we have almost 600 reviews on Amazon. Of all those 600 reviews, we're at 4.8 stars, and which is great. We're happy about that. We've won a few awards for the book, and so going to turn that book into the first of a trilogy of books. And so I'm writing book number 2 right now, and trying to come up with a title for it. Can't come up with some good titles, but not any great titles. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, that's neat. Wow, that's amazing. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for checking out this incredible Tactical Treasures podcast, where we are speaking with Army veteran and decorated Green Beret, Jason Van Camp. Jason Van Camp is involved in many endeavors post-service, one being Mission 60, which is a leadership consulting firm composed of Medal of Honor recipients, U.S. Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, and other Special Operation Forces team members that offers training, master classes, workshops, and live keynotes in a wide range of industries. The curriculum, known as the Total Warrior Model, focuses on consistent, sustainable improvement in 6 areas: mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, and professional. Through this, Mission 60 empowers anyone who may be struggling personally or professionally to liberate themselves from their internal oppression. To find out more about Mission 60 and the services they offer, you can go to mission60.com. And also be sure to check out on Amazon.com his first book in a trilogy series that he has been working on. It's called Deliberate Discomfort. And the book is about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So check all of that out. And now back to the podcast. So let's dive into your treasure. So what would you like to share with us today?
What do I treasure? I guess I treasure what I value, and you really have to dig deep and find out who you are as a person. And we do some exercises like this at Mission 60, and who I am, my values: determination, resourcefulness, and loyalty. And why are those important to me? Determination. I like people. I like to be the type of person, and I also like people that refuse to quit. And that sort of has been ingrained in me, through my military career. Like the last stanza of the Ranger Creed: readily will I display the intestinal fortitude required to fight on to the objective and complete the mission, though I be the lone survivor. Like that just hits me every time. I almost get emotional whenever I have to recite that or hear it. Like, you're the last dude standing. You're going to get the job done. I love it. And that works out with, both in business, and in real life. You want to be around people that when given a task, they're going to see it to the very end. They're going to get it done no matter what. I love that.
Yeah.
I can appreciate how other people don't love that, but I do.
Right.
Resourcefulness. There was a book in the military that gets referred to quite often. It's called Message to Garcia. I'm not sure if you've heard of this book, but essentially what it is it's an ode to a gentleman that was given a simple task. Like, you have to get this message to a dude named Garcia. That's it. That's all the information he was given. And he got the job done. And that's just like being resourceful and figuring it out on your own. And as a leader in the military and also as a business person, like, there are times when you don't have all the answers or you don't have the time to communicate everything. And you just hope that somebody will pick up the ball and run with it and score a touchdown and get the job done. There are a lot of people that are like, well, I'm going to give myself an excuse. I didn't know this, or I didn't know that, or I didn't have all the information. Therefore, I'm not going to do it, or I can't do it. I can appreciate how some people act like that. And I understand, there's a lot of truth to that, but the people that resonate with me are the people that are given just a little information, and they know they don't have all the information they need, but still they get the job done. They figure it out.
Yeah.
I love that. And I like to be that type of person as well. Loyalty, it's easy to be loyal when things are going good, when things aren't going good, when it's the dark times, when you're struggling financially, when the business isn't going so great, when you've lost a few guys on the team, when you guys are all depressed, morale is low. Like, who are the people that have your back? Who are the people that are not going to quit? Who are the people that are going to continue moving forward? Who are those people that got your six, in life and in business on the team?
Yeah.
Like, you look to those people and you build bonds for life. And I've always tried to be that person when the chips are down, where I can forge loyalty in those dark times. You can count on Jason Van Camp to be loyal to you, and that's who I am. And that's the type of person I look for to hire, because when you're in charge, you say, who am I? How do I lead? How do I want to run this organization? These are my values. I want other people who value what I value, and then we can have a really strong, cohesive team with great esprit de corps and camaraderie. We're all on the same page. We all understand each other on a different level. And that's how you get things done. As far as other treasures in my life, such a great question. My family, I have a wife, been married for 8 years. We had Valentine's Day yesterday, We've got 2 kids, a 5-year-old daughter named Claire and a 3-year-old son named Jack. And they're my treasure. Everything I do is for them. The best ability you can have as a father and as a husband is your availability. I want to be able to give them all of me, not just part of me. And so I know a lot of guys that will sacrifice their families for their own personal ego or their personal gain. They'll say, hey, I'm working as hard as I am. I'm trying to make as much money as I can right now for my family. Really? Are you really doing it for your family? Because when you come home from work, you deflect the attention to your wife to someone else. You let your wife call a friend or a parent or a sister or whatever, and your kids want to play with you. You deflect that to your wife or to a nanny or to whoever. You're working as hard as you do for a lot of these guys because of your ego, not because of your family. So for me, I do what I do for my family, and I spend time with my family, and my family is more important than my job. It is, and that's the priority that I have.
Yeah.
And it's tough too. Last night, on Valentine's Day, my wife and I going out, it seems like when you have young kids, you got your heads down and you're just like trying to get through it. They're waking up in the middle of the night still, they're fighting constantly, like there's a lot that you have to deal with kids, and you don't have the time that you once had, for your spouse. And so you got to learn to give that time. And if you start to get away from it, figure out how to reconnect.
Yeah.
You
got to make the effort.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to make the effort. And sometimes it's hard, but at the end of the day, your family is only, I think, as strong as your marriage is. And just Jerry and myself, we're a blended family. So we blended two daughters together at 4 and 5 years old. And that stability rang true just because we made sure that our marital relationship was strong. And so we were able to blend a family. But yeah, that goes a long way. But it's tough. It's tough when they're young.
Congrats, you're doing it the right way. And it's such a great leadership lesson too to have these young kids because uh for our family, my kids, they want they want mommy. They want mommy all the time for everything.
Oh, yeah.
They just have they have a strong bond with me, but they have a stronger bond with mommy. I don't mind. There are times when they're like, I love mommy more than you. I understand, like I get that. I get that. But there are times when it's like, hey, I want a chocolate milk, like, okay, I'll get you a chocolate milk. I get the chocolate milk. I bring it to my son who's 3. No, I don't want you to give me the chocolate milk. I want mommy to give me the chocolate milk, so you have to hand the chocolate milk over to mom, and then mom has to bring it over.
All right.
It's like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Like, how do you reason with the unreasonable?
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Definitely.
Things like that.
Yeah. So, what advice would you have for your fellow veterans who may be struggling to try to forge their way after their military service in the civilian world?
I would say this. If you're thinking that you're doing this on your own or nobody's ever experienced what you're experiencing, you're dead wrong. You're not unique in this. Every veteran asks the same question when they leave the service. Now what? What am I going to do with myself?
Right.
And to me, it comes down to 3 things, really. One, if you're struggling with your mental health, you need to go get some help. You need to be courageous enough to ask for help. And there are so many organizations out there that are doing a phenomenal job. One Tribe Foundation, for example, of helping with mental health, and you got to be honest with yourself about that. Number 2, you might say, I need to get a job. Okay, great. There's a lot of nonprofits out there that are helping vets get jobs. The Honor Foundation, Hire Our Heroes, organizations like that. If you want to start a business, a lot of organizations out there that help with that. And I'd just say, go to Warrior Rising because we'll help you out with that. So that's sort of how you can find your way again. Now, as far as kind of finding your purpose, I can't give that to you. You have to figure it out for yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. Who am I? What do I want to do? How do I want to move forward? Now, a lot of guys suffer from something that they're potentially unaware of. You hear of post-traumatic stress, right?
Yeah.
There's this thing called LTSD, lack of traumatic stress disorder. And so what you see there is folks that are in military, in combat, in charge, they're leaders, all these things are happening, and they're just so busy. And they never take the time to self-reflect. They don't take the time to deal with their issues. They compartmentalize. And we're so good in the military at compartmentalizing. We go on deployment, basically put a bunch of stuff in the closet. We don't think about it till we come back home. And I think with mental health, it's sort of the same thing. Guys that are so good at compartmentalizing, they put all this stuff in the closet and then they focus on starting a business or with their job, and they work crazy hours, or they focus on something else where they're just spending a ton of time problem solving and dealing with things and figuring stuff out. And eventually, whether it's months or years, they're going to problem solve their way out of that situation, and things are going to slow down again, and it's going to get quiet, and they're going to start to self-reflect. And then they're going to open up that door, that closet. And their hope is that whatever they put in there is gone, or at least diminished in a way to where they can handle it. What they find a lot of times is what they put in the closet is still there exactly how they left it, or perhaps it's even more.
Mm.
And that's, I
Right.
think, when guys really struggle post-military, is when they reflect and they see that, and it's overwhelming, and they realize that they couldn't work themselves out of that situation, out of those issues, and they don't want to handle it. And the only way they can find out is suicide. So I have friends that,
Right.
you know, um, I would say fell into that category where the post-military, everything seemed fine. They were working their butts off, they were doing great things. And then all of a sudden, they committed suicide, to the shock and dismay of everybody. I thought everything was going so well. He was making a lot of money. Everything was great with his family. They were taking vacations. Well, because of those things, they were finally able to like take the time to look at what they put in that closet, and it was just too much for them. So one thing I would say is, take the time to reach out to people in your squad, in your platoon, in your company, in your battalion, in your regiment, in your group, what have you, people that you haven't connected with in a long time. Make a phone call, check in with them, see how they're doing, because they're going to appreciate you checking in with them. And guess what? Maybe some of them are struggling, and maybe some of them are, hey, you know what? If you hadn't called me today, I don't know what would have happened. I was in a dark place, and you just out of the blue called me up, and then also to know that you're not alone. Hey man, you're struggling with that, dude. I was thinking about the exact same thing. I was having a hard time with that too. There's such power in knowing that you're not alone. You need to have hope again. And when we find hope in numbers, especially in the veteran community, because for whatever reason, most of us look down upon or disdain the civilian world because they haven't gone through what we've gone through. They don't quite get it. So when you're talking to another veteran, they get it.
They get it. Yeah, definitely. Really good advice and awesome words of wisdom for veterans. And I've known some that have fallen into that last category that you just talked about, where everything seems perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden, suicide has happened, and everybody's wondering what happened, like what he was doing so well, or whatever the case may be. And it's terrible. It's awful when
you
you
don't want
reach
to ever
out.
ask yourself, what could I have done more?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'll just drive yourself crazy.
You will. Yeah.
Asking yourself that. So if we can just reach out, take the time to reach out, I think that's something we can do. Easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So before we leave today, where can people find and connect with you and purchase your book and find out more information about Warrior Rising?
Absolutely. So I am on all social media. However, my preferred social media is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do super well on Facebook or Instagram. So I guess not my thing, but LinkedIn I do pretty well. And so I post on LinkedIn pretty consistently. So Jason Van Camp at LinkedIn. If you connect with me, I'll connect right back. And I've got a lot of posts on there about what I do, what we do at Mission 60 and Warrior Rising, people that we've helped, and so forth. You can go purchase Deliberate Discomfort on probably the easiest way is Amazon. So go to Amazon, type in Deliberate Discomfort book, and then you'll see it. And then you can just purchase it pretty easily from Amazon. And I appreciate it if you guys would consider that as well. That's the easiest way to do it. And I've got YouTube channels as well that you can subscribe to, and that would be helpful. All Jason Van Camp or Warrior Rising or Mission 60. We have a number of different channels there. A lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing everything that you did with us today and giving us kind of a look into your world as far as your service and what you're doing now. I think it's great stuff. and you're doing a lot of good work helping veterans. So we appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Well, I certainly appreciate you. Thanks for having me. It was an honor. It was a lot of fun. If I was able to inspire somebody or help somebody in some way, then it was success, mission success.
Yes.
So thanks again. And if you're not listening, subscribe, listen to Tactical Treasures podcast with Tracy Flanagan, and hope you guys have a great day. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, you too. Thanks a lot, Jason. Bye-bye. Hello, listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for tuning into this exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast powered by JDog and Vet TV. We have just been speaking with Jason Van Camp, who is an Army veteran, decorated Green Beret, and is doing many things post-service. One of the organizations that he is the executive director of is Warrior Rising. It is a nonprofit organization that can be found all the information, warriorrising.org. You can check that out. It's a veteran program that teaches business ownership, entrepreneurship. And he also has an exciting book, which is the first book in what he says is going to be a trilogy. It is called Deliberate Discomfort, which can be found on Amazon.com. And the premise behind the book is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So check all that out. And thank you so much for tuning in to this exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast. We'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks for tuning in.